Hey everyone, and welcome to We Can Do Hard Things, Kickstarting Perseverance in Your Classroom. My name is John Osterman, and I am excited to be with you this afternoon as we look towards a new school year. Maybe you've already gotten into the first few days of your school year, but we're going to focus on how we can incorporate more perseverance into our classroom, as you no doubt have some challenging content and aspects set up into your classroom, and we want to equip our students to be able to handle and tackle those challenges. Before we dive into that, everything you see and hear today will be recorded, and that recording will be available after the webinar is over. And Robin will be sharing a handout in the chat with you that you can see all of the resources that we have here as well. Feel free to share either of those with your colleagues and friends so that you can share all the awesome things you've learned. With that, Robin is also here with us. Would you like to say hi, Robin?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being with us today.
Robin will be in the background, and if you have any technical questions along the way, she is happy to help you. So please feel free to reach out as we go through. Today's webinar is sponsored by Blue Apple Projects. Blue Apple Projects are project-based learning units that help you connect your students with the world and the content that you want to teach to hopefully help make the world a better place. They offer real-world connections. They are cross-curricular. They encourage things like perseverance, like we are going to talk about today. So definitely check them out at blueappleteacher.org, and you can use the code webinar to get a 10% discount. So thank you, Blue Apple Projects. So with that, I would just like to get a feel for who we have joining us today. We are going to be primarily talking about strategies for K-8 teachers, but if we've got 9, 12, and others mixed in here, I think you'll be able to make some use of these strategies as well. So Robin's gonna watch those flow in and let me know how we're doing there, Robin.
All right, we have a few more seconds.
Excellent.
All right. So it looks like we are at 50% middle, 35% upper L, 15% early elementary, 5% high school, and then 10% admin or other.
Excellent, awesome. So we got a nice mix, but kind of heavy in the middle section. I think that'll be great with some of the content we have lined up today. Hopefully everybody is able to find something useful that you can take away and implement here in your classroom. So with that, I would like to introduce you all to a honey badger, not just any honey badger. This honey badger goes by the name of Stoffel. Perhaps you've heard of Stoffel before. He has a rather famous story. Stoffel is a honey badger from a South African wildlife preserve. He is famous for breaking out of his enclosure. And when he broke out of his enclosure, he decided that it would be a great idea to go and pester some lions. And as you can imagine, honey badgers are pretty small animals. They do have thick skin, quite literally, but it did not go very well for Stoffel. And so I want to share a little bit more about Stoffel's story with you today as a vehicle to discuss perseverance in just a little bit here. So Stoffel returned to his home, and we're going to meet Stoffel's caretaker, Brian. And the first thing Brian wanted to do was find a way to keep Stoffel back in his home after he was rehabilitated from his lion attack. And so Brian decides to give Stoffel a partner to help entertain and keep Stoffel busy. And we'll watch this first short clip and see how that went for Brian. But I love that equal, because I think Stoffel and Brian both have some things that we can take away that they can teach us about perseverance. So that's what we're going to look at today. We're going to use Stoffel as an example of how can we develop more perseverance in our students. And so to do that, I first want to start and talk about just what is perseverance, make sure we have a common understanding of that, talk about why it's important, And then, of course, how do we develop it? What are some strategies and ways we can incorporate perseverance into our classroom? So first of all, what is it? Perseverance, I love this quote from Marie Curie, a two-time Nobel Prize winner, discovered a couple of different elements and groundbreaking work in radioactivity. She has to say about perseverance, I was taught that the way of progress is neither swift nor easy. I love this quote because perseverance requires effort and time. In a world where we get a lot of instant gratification, a lot of instant things, perseverance means taking time to complete those things. We don't always achieve our goal right away. It takes both effort, hard work, and we've got to put in the time to continue to see that. So those are the kind of the two features that I'm going to focus on today as we look at perseverance, is putting in effort and time to overcome obstacles to achieve some success. Importantly as well, perseverance is innate. From a very young age, we sense perseverance. We need to learn new tasks. We learn new things. The furthest right picture here is a shameless plug of my own 2-year-old daughter who was trying to blow bubbles and could not find success in blowing bubbles, but she was not deterred. She continued to try and blow those bubbles and was having a great time. If you've ever had an argument with one of your students, maybe you felt this innate sense of perseverance. Recently, I had a conversation with a student who was convinced that dividing something by 0, if we divide a number by 0, it equaled infinity. And he spent a great deal of time talking to me and sharing with me why he felt that this was true and why he felt mathematics was wrong. And though it's not my field of expertise, I was debating against him for the opposite, and we went at this for probably 10-15 minutes, looking at physical examples, talking through different situations, and trying to understand this concept together. And that leads me to the last point here about perseverance, particularly with this student. Perseverance is a passion fruit. This student was passionate about this idea. He spent literally 15 minutes with me talking about why he felt this was true, and I could not convince him otherwise. And he just kept going, right? Perseverance often gets this notion that it's a hard thing to do, but really, if we can find a passion, if we can find a student's passion or our own passion, then perseverance kind of becomes an easy thing to do. We continue to want to try to succeed. So perseverance as a passion fruit is an important concept to keep in mind as well today. So why is perseverance important? Perseverance is important for a few reasons here. Number one, it's foundational. As we see with Stoffel, without perseverance, Stoffel wouldn't have to think creatively, wouldn't have to collaborate with his partner, had to be curious about his surroundings. So perseverance builds on all of these other skills that we want students to develop in our classrooms that they'll use in life. Number two, perseverance helps develop emotional well-being. So if we're looking at this from a social emotional lens, perseverance helps us regulate our emotions, helps us understand how to address challenges when we have emotions of frustration or anger that something's not working out. It helps us identify our goals, and so perseverance helps us and shapes us emotionally as well. And then finally, if you just Google perseverance and success, you'll find a plethora of different examples of people who have persevered and succeeded. And here's just 3 quick ones, right? J.K. Rowling was rejected 13 times by publishers before her book was taken. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison and then wound up being successful in his fight against apartheid to be the first democratically elected president in South Africa. Walt Disney was rejected 300 times for his idea of Mickey Mouse, had a failed cartoon publishing company, and the opening day of Disney World was known as Black Sunday. It went so terribly. And now what doesn't Disney own, right? So perseverance is at the root of success for a lot of different stories, and it can help garner success in our students as well. So let's take a look at some strategies that we can help kickstart perseverance in our classroom. I think the story of Stoffel and Brian gives us three main categories, three ways we can encourage more perseverance in our classroom. Number one, we see through the story of Stoffel and Brian that environment matters. So I'll give you a few strategies related to crafting an environment. Number two, we want to give our students a head start, a running start, in order to feel a sense of perseverance and accomplishment. And number three, our goals are so important when persevering. Knowing what those goals are so that we can achieve them is very important. So let's talk through some strategies that can help us do those three things. So number one, creating an environment, right? With Stoffel, we see an evolving environment over time, and Stoffel has this environment carefully crafted by Brian. Whether Brian knows it or not, he is helping Stoffel develop a greater sense of perseverance and those other skills that we talked about. So how can we craft an environment in which our students can persevere? Well, one great way, one great tool and resource we have that I'd like to share with you is called Crafting Our Classroom. This is a plug and play, ready to go activity that's going to help you create an environment between you and your students where everyone's on the same page. So the idea is that we want to create norms, social norms within our classroom that we all understand. When our students feel safe, when they feel understood by the teacher, and when they feel safe around their peers, it allows them to take risks, to be more creative, to try different avenues, to achieve success, and to persevere. So in part one of this activity, students work to craft some different norms. They answer questions of how do we want our teachers to treat us? How do we want our peers to treat us? What do we do when we encounter a challenge? How do we handle conflict in our classroom? And we have this visual component as well, where the students are posting these ideas and looking at what we have in common with one another once we've answered those questions individually. And then from there, we work together as a class to develop a social contract, something that we can all agree upon. How are we going to treat each other? How is the teacher going to treat me in this classroom? Because it's so important for those risk-taking and those moments when students want to quit, that they know there's someone safe nearby that they can discuss their struggle with or talk about the problem they're encountering with. So that's one great way you can help build a safe environment where perseverance can flourish. Number two is called mistake of the day or of the week. Mistakes can often be seen as something that's okay. We tell our students it's okay, but we want to take it one step further, and we want them to know that it's okay to share those mistakes and that we should even celebrate those mistakes. Albert Einstein said, a person who has never made a mistake has never tried anything new. And that's what we want our students to do in our classroom, is to try new things, to achieve new goals. And so to that end, this is a simple activity that could be an exit slip at the end of the day. It could be taking the time in the middle of a lesson to share a mistake, have a student share a mistake that they made that had helped them progress in some way, shape, or form. And again, make that visual, celebrate that as a class. Maybe this goes onto a bulletin board. Maybe it winds up in the class, in the school hallways, for people to see mistakes that have paid off and helped someone make progress. We want to normalize those mistakes, not shut them down, so that students can push through those obstacles. And then finally, a positive self-talk is so important when we talk about perseverance. So trying to eliminate some of those phrases that have kind of a dead end, like this is too hard, right? That one quits right away. But switching it to, I know I can do this, right? Making these visual for our students to see, to remember, rather than I'll give up, I'll use a different strategy to try and achieve my goal. And then this is really important for the teacher as well, for us as we look at our language, right? I know when I'm teaching different science and engineering challenges, I try not to say things like, let's start easy, right? Those students that are maybe a little bit hesitant about something or already nervous, then the expectation is set that they should be able to achieve this right away. And then when they don't, what do? They shut down, right? So maybe rather than starting with let's start easy, we start with a phrase like this might take a few tries to get right. Setting the expectation right away that for all of us, this might take some work. For our students that are maybe more advanced, they might excel a little bit quicker, but the students that are struggling know that they're not the only ones in that boat as well. So again, creating that safe environment for students to feel that whatever level they are at, they can achieve success as well. So that's number one, is crafting a safe environment for our students to persevere in. Number two is that we want to give students a running start. This means not starting at the top, not starting at the high ceiling. And when we think about differentiation in our classroom, we obviously want to be targeting students of each level and provide a suitable challenge for kids of each So I call these low floor, high ceiling activities where students can enter at any point, but can take them as high or as complex as they are able to. So let's talk through a couple of ways we can give students a running start. Number one is this idea of tinker time. This can be a standalone activity. This can be coupled with a particular lesson or challenge. In my case, I've got two lessons here. One is called Marble Run that I have run with K-5 students. The other one is called Balloon Rockets that I've run with 5-8 students. And at the beginning of both of these activities, we have a little bit of tinker time. Before I give them any challenge, before I outline the final product of the day, they are just given a set of materials to play with. Now in Marble Run, the ultimate goal is to design a marble run that slows their marble down. So we're talking about forces in motion. And so rather than give them that challenge right away, we just give them these materials and let them play around and experiment different ways they can speed up the marble, slow down the marble, change the direction of the marble. And then when we do eventually address the challenge, students already have some ideas that they formulated. Again, no matter where they're at, advanced or not, they have some ideas about how they're going to go about this challenge. So they can already feel some of that success building as they look to achieve a final goal. Balloon Rockets similarly focuses on some forces in motion at an older age, thinking about Newton's laws. We're looking at how can we carry the greatest payload to the ceiling. And so in this case, students are given the exact same set of materials, and they have to engineer a rocket that can carry the most paper clips to the ceiling. So once again, with the tinker time, students just experiment and find ways to get their rocket to go to the ceiling. And then after that phase is complete, we host a little discussion about what students discovered along the way, and then we introduce that final challenge. Now, even more open-ended than this, tinker time could just be its own thing where you give the students materials and see what they come up with, see what they find out. Maybe that will springboard some interesting conversation or success for your students. Number two here, with giving students a running start, is Genius Hour. I love this idea, great one to start the beginning of your year with. Genius Hour finds this intersect between students' creativity and their curiosity. And in between there is what they're passionate about, what they want to try to achieve. So Genius Hour is 1 hour a week where students are working on a passion project of their choice with maybe a few criteria constraints on what they can do, but really it's guided by the students. So we can start by asking the students what do they want to know, what do they want to build, what do they want to do, and then setting maybe a goal of how are they going to share this out, right? At the end of this project, they have to share whatever their passion project is with the class. And then dedicating 1 hour a week, or if you have less time, that's okay too, dedicating some time in the week for the students to investigate something that they are passionate about, to feel that success as they walk through this project. So Genius Hour is a super flexible idea that could be molded to fit your class schedule. I got some great ideas in the hyperlink as well, a resource in there to check out to get started with your own Genius Hour in your classroom. And then finally, in developing perseverance, we want to think about setting goals. Stoffel had a goal. His goal was to get out. We can't know why Stoffel wants so badly to get out, but with our students, we have the opportunity to talk to them, to learn from them, and to find out what goals they have. So I want to give you a couple goal setting strategies. And I think a really important part of goal setting comes down to making those goals visual for students, making those checkpoints visual. So our first strategy is called WHOOP goals. WHOOP goals means wish, outcome, obstacles, and plans. So we create a goal starting with our wish. What do the students wish that they could change or do? And then secondly, we develop an outcome. What does that look like? How does it help us? And we write that out very clearly and explicitly so that students can see it and remember it. And why I really like WHOOP goals is because of this third point here, the second O, obstacles. Identifying an obstacle or two that students can plan to encounter along the way. So we can already begin pre-thinking, how are we going to handle that when it comes about? And then finally, developing a plan from beginning to end of how we're going to achieve this, how we're going to overcome obstacles along the way. I really like WHOOP goals because they're flexible too. Maybe this applies to your first quarter, your first semester of school. What's a goal that a particular student wants to achieve during that time frame? Maybe this applies to a particular unit and is a more specific outcome of a unit or learning concept. So WHOOP goals is one great way to set goals. And then number two is a strategy called stars and stairs, and I have an example here. I used this most recently in some final project planning for an after-school program. The students were creating pitches that they were going to share with local officials and people, professionals. So the students had to find goals along the way to show me that they were progressing in this project. Now, in this particular example, I set the goals. Each stair is a new goal. And then below, this doubles as a formative assessment as well. The students were pasting in there links to different documents that we had to create along the way to show that they were achieving these goals. Once they showed me that they achieved that goal, I would give them the sign off, and they get to feel the satisfaction of filling in or circling or squaring that star, as you can see here. So they can very visually see their progress towards the end goal. Alternatively, rather than the teacher-led goals, this can be a flexible document in which students are creating their goals as well. They have to write in the steps that they need to succeed at a particular project or task. And then again, you're coming in and helping to provide guidance along the way as they produce different outcomes for you. So this can be done digitally as it is here. This could be done on a piece of paper as well, so that students can be coloring in those stars and interacting with this in a physical way. So stars and stairs as a way to track our goals. So with that, those are the strategies that we have to share today on how we can improve perseverance in our classroom. I'm just curious, as we wrap up here, what stood out to you today? Is there one of these maybe that you want to give a shot in this upcoming school year? Maybe you've tried something and you want to retry it again. What stood out to you? So Robin has thrown up that poll, and we'll give just a few seconds for you to respond and see where we're at.
All right, John, they're still rolling in, so I'm gonna give it 5 more seconds and we'll close it down.
Great. All right.
All right. So it looks like all of the strategies are definitely gonna be tried. But at the top, at 64%, we have mistake of the day or week.
Awesome.
Followed by whoop and stairs and stars at 45%. Crafting our classroom at 41%. Genius Hour at 32%, and Tinker Time at 23%.
Awesome. I'm glad everybody has found something hopefully they can take away and give a shot this year. I hope that you see a difference in your students' perseverance and grit as you implement some of these strategies this year. So as we wrap up, you may be wondering, what about Stoffel, right? We asked that question at the beginning. Who persevered more in this story? Well, as of April 24, just so you know, Stoffel is the age of 26 years old. He's given up his days of escaping in his old age and hangs out with his partner in his cage. So I'm not sure if we can say that Brian won out. Old age might have just gotten to Stoffel here, but he is safe and sound in his Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. So with that, if you like what you heard today, I'd encourage you to check us out at vaei.org and check out our Flex PD. We offer a variety of different topics and content that meets your budget needs and your schedule. So head there to learn more. And we hope that you can join us at our next webinar on August 23, Transforming K-12 Leadership with ChatGPT, Time-Saving Strategies for Success. That'll be at 4 p.m., same time, same place. We hope to see you there. Be sure to check out Blue Apple Projects and use that code webinar. And with that, please don't hesitate to reach out. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to address them. I hope that you all have a great school year. Thanks for being here and have a good evening.